Hello everybody. Welcome to the MonaLogues on Life with Mona. And this is our Christmas episode. So, yay, Christmas. I love Christmas. I think it's a lot to do with my childhood. Christmas was just amazing. I mean, our parents really made Christmas work. The presents under the tree, going out, celebrating, having fun, being there with family. It was always awesome. But one of the things I think, one of the best memories for me for Christmas is actually a particular Christmas when I was, I think I was 8 or 9. And my mother taught in the school. She taught in a very low income school. This was when we were in Swaziland. And the school she taught at was like in a village. So a lot of the kids there did not have a lot of money. They didn't have, most of them could barely afford school fees. And a lot of them used to walk to school. They were barefoot. They didn't have shoes. These was like the bare necessities. And my mother actually opted to teach in that school as opposed to the international school where she'd been offered a job because she felt as if the kids in the international school were fine. They had everything they needed. They had good schools from all over the world. And she said, if I go there, I don't think I'm adding any value to those children. But if I come to this particular school, which is a low-income school for children from low-income homes, I can actually make an impact on these kids. So she opted to go to that school. This school was paying her like a quarter of the salary than the international school would have. But her aim was to help other children. Part of the things that she used to do was she really used to try and help us see that not everybody lived the same kind of life financially. She really wanted us to see that there was people who were struggling. There was not all kids were the same. Not all kids had the things that we had or that our neighbors had or that our own classmates had. So my mom, part of her educating me and part of her showing me this other side of life, she'd make me go and visit. Like some random day I'd go with her to school and see the situation. And sometimes she'd make me like tick their books, like mark their books. At this point, I was probably, like 8, 9, I think actually, 9, 10. So I ended up knowing the students, my mother's pupils, I should say, because she'd sit down with me and I'd mark their homework. And there's one particular child that I never forgot. His name was Makawe. So Makawe always used to get like 1 out of 10, 0 out of 10, 2 out of 20. And this really bothered me because I was like, why is this one particular child not doing well? There's like 5 of them, but Makawe was always at the bottom. The others would fluctuate, between being in the middle of the class or at the bottom. But Makawe consistently was always the last person. So there was a day I asked my mother, like, why is Makawe always at the bottom? Is it that he doesn't understand, what's going on? And she said, the thing is, he was one of the poorest kids in that school. So she said sometimes he would walk, for 2 hours just to get to school. He'd be hungry, he'd be tired. And it was very hard for him to focus and to concentrate. And it was very difficult for me to wrap my head around that as a child who came from fair comfort. We came from a lot of comfort. It was very hard for me to understand that a child would fail in school because he was too tired and too hungry to concentrate and probably hadn't even slept much the night before. So I grew a soft spot for Makawe. And every time I was marking his books, I would really look for that 1 or 2 extra points to give him, which at first my mother would like chide me over. And she's like, no, don't do that. You're encouraging him. You're cheating for him. I'm like, I'm not cheating, but he's made an effort. Him walking to school for 2 hours is him making an effort. So that needs to reflect in his marks. And she kind of like let me do it if I was adding like 1 or 2 marks to Makawe's books. So that continued like for the year. And by the end of the year, now it was Christmas. They were doing the Christmas celebrations in her school. And there was the list of, she had 2 lists. One had most of the kids, and then the other one had like 5 or 6 kids. And Makawe's name was one of those kids. And so she made me look at the list because she said we needed to count the money to make sure that all these kids had paid. So what I asked her was, how come there's some kids on this list and some kids on this other list, and these are 6? What's wrong with these 6 kids? And she said, those are the kids who are not going to attend the party. So I asked her why. And she said, because their parents couldn't afford to pay for the party. And the rule in the school was at the end of the year, you had to pay for your child to be part of the festivities. It wasn't a lot. It was like 15 cents, which is maybe the equivalent of like, I don't know, 100 shillings, maybe even less, maybe between 50 and 100 shillings in Kenya. And so I was like, so these children are not going to be part of the Christmas party? And she said, no, because their parents haven't paid. And I told her, I think that's really unfair, because why they have so much suffering already all through the year. This one time when they get to come to school and eat cake and, drink sodas and celebrate, they can't do that. And she was like, those are the rules. So I asked her, how much is it? And that's when she told me it's like 15 cents. So I asked her, so can I use my pocket money to pay for them? And my mom just kind of like kept quiet and looked at me. I think it surprised her that I would come up with this. And she said, yeah, you can if you want to. And I said, yes, I do. So she said, here's what I'll do. You pay for two. Pick two of these kids to pay for, and I'll pay for the other three. And so I went quickly to the room, brought out my pocket money, and I said, I'm paying for Makawe, and I picked another kid. And my mom paid for the other three kids. And they got to go to the Christmas party. And I remember insisting to my mother that I have to be a part of that Christmas party so I could meet Makawe. I'd never met him before. And it was, whatever I did was something that was so small in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of what these children went through the whole entire year. But there was this little tiny gesture to say that I cannot change your life, but today I can make a difference in it. And for me, that's what it was. I didn't think of it in that huge scheme, when I was a child. To me, I was just making sure that Makawe can attend a party and be happy. And seeing him there and seeing him happy really gave me a lot of joy. And I think that my mother taught us a lot to give, to notice, to see when other people need things, and to kind of like stand up and in the gap and to give whatever it is that we can give when we can give it. And I don't know if I have kept that as much in my adult life as I should. I'll give you another example, which I'm not sure I would do that today as an adult, what I did as a child. Still around the same time, at the age of 9, 10, where we lived, we used to live on a house that was like, it was a slope, and then our house was at the top of the slope. And then down below, you could see the road, the main road, not the main road, it was like the neighborhood road passing. So I was hanging out there with my dad. I'm not sure what he was doing, but we're on the veranda together. And I saw this child. She was probably like 6 or 7, and she was carrying a jerry can of water. But the thing was, she was carrying it in a plastic bag that kept snapping. And this was a little kid, and this jerry can was a huge one. So I watched her as she walked across, where our house started to where it ended. And I was just feeling horrible. And this was after my mother had taken me with her to school. So I knew that, there were children that really struggled. And I'm thinking, it's hot outside. There's this little girl that's trying to carry a jerry can that's like half her size. And I was thinking, what can I do to help? I can't go down and carry it with her because I don't know where she's going. So I asked my dad, can I go into the house and give her an apple? And my dad looked at me and said, you know her? I said, no, I don't, but she's a girl and she's struggling on the road. Maybe an apple will help her. So he said, sure. So I ran into the house, got the apple, came back, ran down the slope, and she was just passing the gate at that point. So I just stopped at the gate, and then now I'm nervous because I'm not sure whether she will receive the apple or not. And I walk up to her and I give her the apple. And she just stands there for a minute looking at me, wondering, okay, what is this girl about? And we don't say anything to each other. So I just hand the apple to her. And she takes it and she looks at me and she said, Ngiyabonga, which means thank you in Siswati. And then we kind of looked at each other and she went on her way. And I went back to the house with this huge smile on my face. I hadn't done much to help this girl. But I thought, for me, my treat, the thing that makes me happy at that time, I wish it was, now it's chocolate. Then it was an apple. At that time, the thing that made me happy was an apple. I thought apples were, I loved apples. And I thought, let me give this girl an apple. And I'm sure, I don't know. I never saw her again. I don't know how different that one gesture was to her for the rest of her day. But I know she put the apple in her pocket and she walked on. And I like to imagine that somewhere in the back of her mind, she knew, if I get super hungry, I can eat this apple on my way home. So I like to call that an apple moment. As we go into the Christmas season, what I call an apple moment. An apple moment is seeing the things that you see every single day, but you kind of take for granted because we are so used to seeing them. But this one time we decide, let me make a difference in somebody's life, right? It can be anything. Let me give you an example. For instance, when my ex came to visit over Christmas about, 8 years ago? Then we were going to Naivasha. So we're driving in the car and we're all talking and chatting. We're there with my brother, laughing, talking, chatting. And as we start passing Kangemi, this guy goes completely quiet. I turn around to him, I'm like, what's going on. And he's just staring out the window. He's quiet. And so I asked him, what's the problem? And he looks at these, these little like shacks that are there. He asked, do people live like this? I mean, he asked, what are these? And I said, some are shops, some are houses. Because you can see, the whole thing, you can see it sprawling out. I said, some are shops and some are houses. And he kept quiet. He's like, people live there. I said, yeah, some people live there. And he didn't say anything for like half an hour as we continued driving to Naivasha. And later on, he said, I thought I grew up poor, because he grew up in East London. And he came from a pretty humble background. He said, I thought I grew up poor. But even at our very, very worst, I don't think our lives had ever sunk to that point. I did not know that people can live like this. And that is something that moved him. It didn't move us. Why? Because we've seen it all our lives, right? We've seen Kibera, the slums, all our lives. We've seen poverty. We've seen people living in huts. We've seen it. We grow up around it. So you stop noticing it. And it's only until he asked me, do you mean people really live like this, that I started thinking, wow, okay, there's a problem in a society where people go hungry and it's okay. There's a problem in a society where people die because they can't get medical care and it's okay. There's a problem in a society where children cannot get educated and it's okay. And I know we cannot solve everything. We can't. No one person can solve everything. The government, is even struggling to solve these things. And so that's where I think the Apple moment comes. The Apple moment is about that one child walking down the road, carrying a jerrycan that's too big for her, and asking, what can I do right now to make life better for this person? It doesn't have to be a huge community, just this person, And so for me, my message to us as we go on celebrating Christmas and we go into this period is, ask yourself, what is your Apple moment going to be? It can be something so simple. It can be that elderly lady that when you go up country, she's always sitting by herself somewhere in the corner. And you decide, my Apple moment is, I'm going to sit next to her and just talk to her for an hour. That's it. It can be something as simple as finding out more about your house manager. Some of us have people who've worked for us for years and you have no idea what kind of life they live. Ask them questions. Where are you going? Where are you spending Christmas? Who's going to be there? Do you guys have enough food? Something that simple. Ask them about next year, school fees. How are you doing on school fees for your children? How old are they? Where are they in life? What are they doing? It can be something that simple. One of the most moving scenes that I witnessed in Nairobi a while ago was in South Sea, and there was a lot of traffic zipping back and forth. And this elderly lady was trying to cross the road, and she was just so flabbergasted that she'd try to cross the road, and then a car would pass, and then she'd stop. And this car swerved in and noticed this. And this man literally parked his car diagonally across the road so that nobody could move. He got out of the car, helped this lady across the road, got back into his car, and drove off. That's it. And all of us stopped. Like, there was no hooting. Kenyans can be rude. Nobody hooted. I think we're all so moved because we'd seen her, but you're like, whatever, man. It's not my problem. Me, I have places I'm going. But this guy literally stopped his car, made traffic stop so he could help this lady across the road. That is what I call an Apple moment. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. We see these things on news all the time. You can decide, you can do it big if you want. You can decide, there's this particular village, I heard there's no food over there. Let me go see how I can help. It could be somebody next door. It could be anything, small or big. Just have a moment where you're giving back. Just something that's personal to you. How can you make somebody's life better this season? It could be saying hello to the guard who opens your gate every day, finding out what his name is. Just things to warm people's hearts, an Apple moment. And that's what I encourage us to do as we go off into Christmas. Find something that's going to brighten somebody's day. It can be huge, it can be small, but what is small to you might be a life-changing experience for somebody. So let's give back. Let's give back in that way. Let's find those little moments and give back however we can. And most importantly, let's give ourselves Apple moments. Me as Mona, how can I give myself an Apple moment? What is the little boost that I can do for me, to love me, to take care of me? How can I give back to myself that way? So I think I think we're going to leave it there. And what do I say? I want to wish you guys a Merry, Merry Christmas. Find some Christmas lights. I know I will. I have a thing for Christmas lights. I have to go to a place with many, many lights. Thankfully, I will be with my sisters out of the country, and I know where we're going. There's going to be lots of lights. That's what I'll be doing, finding Christmas lights, like that shady person from Africa. That will be me. Ah, wow. Yeah, so find something that's fun for you. Find something that's cool for you. Don't eat too much or do, but whatever you do, don't drink too much or do. Anyway, whatever you do, just have fun, have a good time, and remember to share and care with everybody, not just the family. I wish you guys a Merry, Merry Christmas. Take care of yourselves. Love you lots. Mwah. This is Life with Mona.